Okay, we're on, baby. Okay, ready? Okay, so where did we end off yesterday?
We start go over what did you
Okay, so
on your no
okay, so we went over this one.
whatever you need.
Okay.
So go back. Yeah.
Okay, chapter 7. Okay. Okay, so let's go inside the text. So a subclass extends the superclass. I say extends because that's the word you'll actually use when you write the code.
Yes.
Right? Over here you'll have a rowboat that extends boat. Okay? It inherits the instance variables and the methods if they're public, and that's a big if.
Yeah.
Right? For example, this rowboat cannot see the length directly. If it wants to see the length, it has to go through set length and get length. Because these are ones that are public. This is private. So it'll not drop to the subclasses. Remember, it can add new methods. Like this one adds the rowboat. The sailboat adds its own new method, move, which is not the same method. This is new.
So the rowboat.
Oh, right, the rowboat adds its new method. Row the boat. This is also new because remember, it's not.
Yeah, I know.
It's an overloaded one.
Yeah.
Okay, and it can override methods. Right, change the logic. For example, like this one, this move for the sailboat changes the move from the parent. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And remember, if they make it final, that's it. You cannot do anything else with it.
Yes.
Okay, instant variables are not overridden. There's no such thing because instant variables is not logic.
Yeah, because
it's just a
not
bucket.
define them with anything.
Right.
So you can do whatever you want. So.
Right. So it makes no sense to override. Okay. So one purpose of inheritance is to avoid duplicating code. Right? Say you have a boat, and a lot of the things that all the boats do, you can just do it over here. You know, the idea of it moving with an engine, whatever it is, you can just put it in the parent class.
On your classes, yeah.
And then the subclass is just inherited. But you should know that inheritance, the idea of avoiding duplicating code, is really not the biggest reason for inheritance.
So.
The biggest reason is polymorphism, like we mentioned yesterday. That is the biggest reason, and a programmer has to grasp that. If you don't grasp that, you won't be making flexible code.
Yeah, so the following.
Over here, this is polymorphism. Over here, the idea that we have a array list of boats, and yet we're filling it with different classes.
Different classes.
Because since they all inherit from boat, they all can go in there.
And then you can move, and everyone moves.
Right. Right. So this is the idea of putting this in here, and looping through the list and moving them. That is polymorphism.
Huh.
And that is the epitome of programming. The idea of knowing that you should always be using the most highest level of a class possible in your code.
Okay.
Right? Because if I use a highest level like this, and I ever add new boats, this code doesn't have to change. Never has to change.
Okay.
Right? I can add a million different types of boats. A speedboat, what do they call those boats with the rubber tires? You know what I mean? And this code will just work fine.
Yeah.
Okay. So here we just have a simple example of.
Yes, this is also the example that subclass. You have the
Yeah.
chain, and you have I also you need to take like after that the most common, like if you have two or more common objects, and you can put them together, and you can add in something that make them common, like the
Right.
chain of Rome. It's gonna make it more easier. No?
Right. Now, keep in mind that even though this is true, we'll see later on that usually with inheritance, you don't want to go more than one. Usually, you don't want to go too deep.
Yeah. Okay.
There's other ways of approaching it.
Okay.
This is possible.
Okay.
You can make it 10. Usually, if you look through the API, the Java API, and there's all the thousands of classes they give us, and see how they write their code, you'll see that they don't go that deep. except for certain areas, but most of the time they go like 1 level or 2 levels deep. Like this is 2 levels. So what's happening over here? This animal, the top class, has 4 methods. Makes noise, an animal eats, an animal sleeps, and an animal roams. So all these are animals, right? So over here, we are in the feline, which are, we have cats, right? We override the roam method and make a new one because all the lions and cats and tigers will inherit the special type of, right? But the cool thing now is if I make an array list of animals and drop in there a lion, tiger, cat, wolf, and dog, they all can make noise, eat, roam, and sleep.
Yeah, but you don't want them to do the same.
They won't do the same because they all have their own special.
Yeah, now, but
right.
Doing without the second one thing.
Yeah. Okay. Now remember, when you call, here's an example. So you have an animal. The same thing as above. So I make a new wolf, and I make noise, I roam, and eat, and sleep. So what happens? When I make noise, right? Here's the wolf. The wolf overrides the make noise method.
Yeah, so
you use that one. The roam, which one does it use?
Roam uses the second one.
So from the canine.
It's going back to check it.
Okay.
Check where is it.
And the eat?
Eat. It's going. Eat. Where is the first one? So it's found who is the first one? Like who is the last one?
Okay. And sleep?
It's looking for all the classes. It's going to still find it up there.
Okay, cool. So in other words, it starts at the bottom up.
Yeah.
It finds it here, cool. Here, cool, here. Okay, this is very important. Is a and has a.
Mucho really cool.
Yeah.
It's really cool, like to understand that. But I didn't understand the has a, like how what I'm doing if I found something that is it's not inherent, but they're related to each other, but they're not like.
Okay, yeah. So a triangle is a shape.
Yeah.
It works only one way. A shape is not a triangle.
Yeah.
Right. So just like this, a wolf is an animal, but not necessarily the other way around. The animal doesn't have to be a wolf.
Yes. Yeah. I got it.
So the arrow only goes one way.
It can be everything that one. Yeah.
Okay. So here's a good example. A tub is not a bathroom.
Yeah.
A bathroom has a tub. Therefore, you'll have a bathroom class, and tub will be an instance variable
inside
the bathroom. Just like Regev has eyes. He's not AI. So Regev, so you have a human being class, a people class. People have a I instance variable.
So this is going to be instance variable, not like the triangle is a shape. So triangle is going to be a class on a shape superclass.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So has a
means you have an instance variable.
When it's related. When it's related.
Has a means you need.
When it's related to each other, it's instance variable. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And if it's an is a, then that's it. You're a subclass.
It's a sub.
Now, keep in mind, just for the sake, you have to realize that we're actually in the real world. In the real world, we're going to learn later on different ideas of patterns, of actually how to write code in the best way possible. And we'll see later on that there's some tricks we can pull. Okay, I'll give you a heads up of one issue of subclasses.
Okay. What?
There's one issue of subclasses, and that we'll see later on how to. And this is why you have to be careful with them. Imagine you're a person, right? You make a game, and you have a game, and you have a person named Jack, and he's a subclass of people, right? So there's people, and then there's I don't know. You make a warrior. That's your subclass of people. It overrides certain methods and it makes new ones, right? So you add this. You have a warrior who's a subclass of people, and games good can find. Then say you add, I don't know, like a what? I don't know. Say later on. Actually, here's a good example. Say you have this over here. The books actually give this example later on. You have this example.
Okay.
Then say you're making an application, and the owner wants to now put in a pet class.
Okay.
Well, you can have a pet class, but you can't inherit from two different parents. So what do?
You can have a pet class.
I have a pet class. How is my dog getting inherit from a pet class? You can't inherit from two ways.
Okay, so how you don't get on the
So we'll see later on.
So hold on again. Let me think. Maybe you put the pet class about the animals.
But then it wouldn't make sense because then you're saying that all these, remember,
Oh, yeah, you're right.
because remember, it is a relationship. Is a hippo a pet? That never happens.
Why,
Remember.
you never have it?
A lion is you have to do only.
Right. How you doing that?
So see you later on.
You put me like.
It's called the interface.
Okay. So maybe you send that to the pet. You send all the animal you call when you write the pet. You need to make sure that the dog and the cat go into the pet. Ah,
That's what we'll see. Remember, the key thing of programming is polymorphism. That's really the key thing. So
yeah,
that's what we want to gain. If we have a pet.
So when you had another pet under the animal, so when you write the code, you just call them.
But that's not good because if you're calling them, the reason why this works.
So, but this is the polymorphism, no? You just call them. You put.
The reason why this works.
Oh, you put them in an array list. And
we'll see later on. You can't. The only way to put the array list is if they are part of it, right? If it can't be a pet and a boat at the same time. We'll see later on how to do this.
Okay.
There's no way to know unless you learn. It's called an interface. We'll see later on how it works. But recognize that inheritance has an issue. One big issue is that you can only inherit from one superclass.
Yes.
Okay.
What is this?
Okay. So.
So we cannot use the subclass of a method.
Right. So you can't call the parent can't call the child method. Obviously. Superclass can call the subclass. Over here, I can.
Yeah, you can like use with the subclass on superclass.
Right.
It's going up.
Right.
Like
Right. Okay. However, in a subclass, you can use both.
Yes.
Over here's an example. So you have roam. You can actually call super.roam, and it will call the super one.
You write super, or we just like
You write
made
super.
up?
Super.
Yeah.
Super is the keyword. Yeah.
So if you write super roam, so you know exactly what to go first.
It go ups, runs it, and then it go back over here and run whatever you want to run.
And you can write another roam.
Yeah.
Oh,
So say for example, we have code where all animals for roaming, you put the general thing where they, I don't know, they'll start roaming around in 10 feet.
And then after that, they roam to the other.
And then they do their own animal behavior. So animal line does one thing, and then so you can put the general code in the superclass, let them all roam around for 10 feet looking for something, and then do your own line roam, roams for 100 miles.
Yeah, so you need to write super.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm not, I'm not so sure how often it's used.
Super.
Okay, so remember that if it's private, it will not get in the subclass. If it's public, it will.
Yeah.
Okay, so even though this inheritance sounds cool, and it is cool, it's very powerful.
Yeah, it's interesting.
It's very powerful, but you have to remember that we're going to learn design patterns later on. And that's going to be the key to understand how to make really cool patterns.
What is pattern? I forget.
What?
What does it mean, pattern?
The patterns?
What is the word mean?
Pattern means a certain approach of how to do something, a certain way of doing something. We'll see later on for common programming difficulties and how to approach it. For example, we'll learn later on, say like there's a thing called, say, the factory pattern, which is like, a certain way of programming for different problems. So you have like a pizza shop with franchises and all this, which we'll learn later on, like if we have time, like 15 to 20 patterns, and we'll see how to use it. And you'll see that most of them don't use too deep inheritance, maybe one level or two levels, and that's about it. In the Java API, most inheritance hierarchies are wide but not deep. Okay, 1 to 2 levels deep.
Okay, what do you mean wide?
Wide means here you'll have, say, like an animal, and you'll have tons of subclasses. You'll have
Oh, okay,
this,
okay.
but it doesn't go that deep. You're not
Yeah.
going to have, canine, animal,
Yeah.
whatever it is. It's not going to go. It's not going to go 10 levels deep. The exception is where it comes to GUI interfaces. But that's the exception. Okay. So one interesting thing of the idea of subclasses is that say you got code from somebody else, right?
Mm-hmm.
And everything's working fine except one method in this class you just hate. Doesn't work good. And he made it public. And so you go ahead and subclass it, and you override that method. So that's one cool idea of inheritance as well, is that you can fix someone else's code without really changing it, without touching it.
Just generate it.
Yeah, make a subclass and then change the method.
Wow, so cool.
Okay, but remember, that's not even those things are cool. Those are not the epitome, the real reason why we have a. Okay, so what does inheritance help you? Here are some of the things. It avoids writing duplicate code. Right? If you have code that's common to everybody, just put it in the top class, and then everyone else gets it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it gives you a contract. It's saying that everybody must follow this. So in the contract, it says everyone must have set length, get length, and move. So you're establishing a contract for all boats. Everyone has to have this. That's one cool thing about it, is you make sure that all boats go to a certain contract.
Yeah, that you can, yeah.
You must follow this.
Yeah, same related.
Yeah, you got to do the same methods.
Related. Yeah.
You can go add an add. If you want to be a boat, you got to have these things.
What?
The boat is saying that if you want to be a boat, you want to subclass me, you better have set length, get length, and move. You can't. You have to have those. That's the way it is.
Yeah. What did you find both?
Right. Which leads us to the most important thing: polymorphism. Okay. And that basically is that anywhere where you define a super type, okay, you can use that instead. So like over here, we can use a super type, and that'll hold anything it wants. It can hold a boat, a sailboat, a rowboat. Okay, and as you write code, this you cannot really appreciate until you start actually writing code. It's too much in theory without writing. When you start writing code, you realize how much this helps you. It'll start making more sense.
Yeah, it's making sense what you're talking about. Instead to write on every class,
Right.
write the move code, so you just put everything in a Redis and you tell them, like, guys, move.
Yeah, here's a very good example. See over here? There's a vet, right? The vet has a veterinarian. This vet class has a method that gives a shot to an animal. You see? So it takes in an animal as a parameter, and it does things to it, and that making noise. Right?
Yes.
See how cool it is?
Mm-hmm.
Because every animal makes a noise.
Yes, so A making noise, so you're making a noise for every animal.
Right, so the cool thing here is I don't have to make a method that accepts dogs, a method that accepts cats, a method that accepts. They all can go in this.
Yes.
Because you're doing it by the superclass.
So yes, the animal is the superclass.
Yeah, this is the power of polymorphism. You can make simple code, and I can now go and make a million animals, different subclasses.
Yeah, animal is the object.
Let me use the object.
It's the type.
The superclass.
Yeah. And A is the object. No, A is the object. Animal is the type.
Right.
Okay.
But every object of animal,
Yes.
no matter how far down it is, must make a noise. It'll have this method.
Yeah.
This is really powerful.
Yeah. And then everyone's gonna make a noise. Oh, meow.
Right. Okay. Okay, we'll look later on about, this is really not for now, this is for later on, the idea of how to make a class private, and we'll see later on more about that. Okay, so overriding and overloading, those are two different things, and people get all the time confused, but they're not the same thing, they're very, very different. Overriding is where you're actually taking a method from the contract and you're changing it. Like this over here would be overriding. This over here is overloading.
Yeah. It's not the same.
Completely
It's
different.
even the same.
Right. And what's the rules for overriding? In other words, if you want to keep polymorphism working,
Yes.
then you better have the same list of arguments and in the order of arguments,
But, yeah.
and you better have the same return type,
Yeah.
and you better have the same permissions. In other words, if it was like a public method over here, you cannot make it now private.
Yeah.
Because then obviously it wouldn't work because it can't call the move because it's private. So that's the rules. See over here?
Mhm.
It must be the same. And it can't be less accessible. Overloading, you just change it any way you want. By over here, just add an argument or change the argument or change the type, change the return type, any of those, and it'll be
Like when you when you call move, it's also doing this thing, or you're not even.
no, because I'm not passing anything in there. In order for me to do that,
It's a different call. Like,
yeah, I'll have to go over here, you see, and for the sailboat, call move speed.
Yeah. Yeah, I got you.
Because, it doesn't, and there's no way for me to call this using polymorphism.
Yeah.
Because the other ones don't have this. Right? So this has nothing to do with inheritance, nothing to do with polymorphism.
It's a new method.
Okay. Cool. Chapter 7 done.
So there's any, you want me to do any homework, or I'm gonna do from the book?
Let's see. Let me see what the book's got. You have the book out here? Where's that?
Yeah, the air classes, so then we don't know.
No.
Just like wasn't actually one good.
Let's see what. Want to get that light? I should turn this off.